Perfect. Dr. Christison and I were just chatting. It is nice to see how all the different speakers we've had so far, their talks are kind of introducing the next talk and relating to the next one. It's been really neat. And I'm really pleased that we're able to have Dr. Christensen come and speak with us all the way from Rocky Mountain House, but you still live in Calgary.
Yes.
So Dr. Christensen served as a teacher and administrator with the Calgary Board of Education for 42 years. And during their time as a high school principal, their invisible disability became increasingly more visible. And you're going to share a little bit about that today, about your own experience, but you have experience both supporting people that you're working with disabilities and also learning how to be disabled yourself. So we're really glad to have you here share your story today.
Thank you very much. I will ask you, first of all, clear enough? All right. Sometimes with the mustache, I mumble a bit. So if there are any questions that you have and you don't want to put them in Slido, I'm more than happy to answer any question you have. It's really important for you to know, though, if you ask me a question, I will give you an answer, okay? So I was actually a little surprised when Dr. Minoka asked me to be part of this because she knows that sometimes I say no to her or I won't do that or things like that. So I'm just a very straightforward kind of person. And I try to be very respectful of other people. One of the questions I always ask is, what does respect look like and sound like to you? So I will just go through with my presentation. The slides are primarily background and context, and for you to take things away. I'm not going to use the video on this one because Dr. Sawatsky had one that was very similar to it. This one is done a little bit differently, but the same kind of idea. If the world was flipped around, so that everything was meant for Stephanie and Danielle and Bonita and myself, rather than for people who stand erect for their mobility. So a couple of other things, if 27% of us are identify as disabled with one or more disabilities, then in every context I've ever worked in as a high school principal with student populations between 1,200 and 2,700, so 27% of that, that's a lot of human beings. And what is really, really important is starting with a sense of inquiry. And I am speaking only from my own perspective, and I'm only giving you my lived experience if I am not judging you or telling you that you have ever done anything wrong. This is me, okay? Cis, male, very European, very Scottish, that kind of upbringing, no stubborn, just doing those kinds of things. Do what's right all the time, even if you get in trouble. That's me, okay? Doesn't mean it's for you. I always started with questions, asking questions. So if Evan were coming to the high school and Evan identified as having a learning disability, I met with Evan and or his parent or parents or caregivers or guardians. Evan, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? What would be helpful for you coming to high school, joining this school? What can you do right now and what do you want to be able to do? Where are you right now as a 14 or a 15-year-old and where do you want to be in 3 years? Not, let's talk about your Code 54 learning disability and let's talk about the $7,147 that comes with you. That's not important to me. Evan's important to me. Now, I did not interview and talk with all 360 students who may have educational codings, including Code 58 and 59, where they have multiple medical disabilities, but lots of times parents advocated for them. I did something too that not all parents liked. I spoke to Evan. I didn't speak to parents. Some of them were mad. Some of them were furious. Some of them wrote letters. And I got in trouble. Boo-hoo-hoo. Evan has to live in the school and he works in the school. Doesn't mean I ignored the parents. But Evan needs to do it. So the same kind of thing too. I have a full-time caregiver my wife retired with me early, and she provides full-time care. Now, she's not here because we're in Calgary, and she's gone to IKEA, so that'll be interesting. And she's got to see some of her other friends, which is fantastic. But if you ask Stephanie, questions about me, she gives them from her perspective, and her perspective is more than valid because she sees me struggle and what I can't do well. When I say, as a stupid stoic Scot, it's all right, I can do it. Okay. But nobody speaks to my caregiver full-time. But one of the questions that I really appreciate that my caregiver is asked is, how are you doing? What can we do to help support you? Caregiving is a really hard road to hoe. And for lots of parents, it's really, really difficult. And for lots of partners, it's really, really difficult. And there is guilt, and there is resentment, and there is friction. But that's all a normal part of any kind of relationship, but it gets exacerbated. Asking questions helps, but please don't ever ask a question that you don't want an answer to, because you'll get it. Not just from me, but lots of people will give that. So you may have to do some things that are helpful, like putting a limit on the amount of time, which I did with some parents when they talked about things. I will talk to you for 30 minutes once a week, no more. Okay? I don't know the context of all the things that you do, but that's one of the things that I did. And that helped to focus what they wanted to talk about. The other thing was, we talked about what are some of the things, if someone would like something, Evan says, I'd like a full-time aide. You will not get a full-time aide in a public school in Alberta in 2026. You wouldn't get one in 2016. Okay? So there are some things that will be asked for, but how can we get you closer, or what are some of the connections that we will have? So starting with a sense of inquiry, because we don't know. The other thing that happens is the individuality. Now, I'm sharing with you, and I don't typically share lots of stuff about me. And if you read some of the bio, it says I'll tell you all about my professional activities. You can know all about them. I don't really tell you a lot about it. And it's not because I have anything to hide. I'm just a private person. But I will share some of these things with you. If you focus on looking at as everybody that you interact with as individuals, that's divergent. But it also provides you with the connections, and it provides you with all the kinds of things and a better understanding of the intersectionality that Danielle was talking about, because it all matters. Everything about who I am matters. 1981, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was 22 years old. That puts me way out here in the population of the distribution. But in my family, that puts me smack dab in the center of it. My father, 36. My sister, 39. My grandmother, 27. So in my family, that's where it is. I grew up in poverty. Well, that really affects me forever. You don't need to know everything about me, but you need to have that sense of inquiry. 4 of us down here today in wheelchairs. What else do we have in common? Yeah, okay. So, and in my case, an EDD. So I wear a different hat, right, at the ceremony. But we may have very little in common. I used to say to students when they were in grade 11, the only thing you have in common is you're in grade 11 at this school at this time. After that, you're individuals, okay? I'm not going to treat everybody the same. This is hard. This is really, really hard, especially in your practice, because the procedures and the mandates tell you what to do, but you work with people. This takes more time, and it's worth it. You don't do it all at once, and you don't just do it once. You don't just do the intake interview for 3.5 hours and then forget about it, because we change. We all change. And I was used to students coming in, 1/3 of them are brand new, 1/3 of them have been there for 1 year, 1/3 of them have been there for 2 years, and they're going to leave. And that's part of what happens as well. And they all age, and we do things differently. I don't know what it's like to be 70, because I'm not there yet. I'm getting close, but I'm not there yet. It's the same kind of thing with your patients as they go through childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, as they become older. So using this divergent way rather than the convergent way, and that's part of what ableism is. Everybody should do this or be this way, or this is what the metrics are that we judge people on. So we do have lots and lots of examples of individuality. I grew up in Calgary. retired from Calgary, moved out into the country outside of Rocky Mountain House. One of the things I don't have to worry about anymore is my ridiculously lazy neighbors not shoveling the sidewalk in front of their house. Because everybody has a snowplow out there, and I don't use sidewalks. But rural Alberta is very different than urban Alberta. So the individuality about this as well. Lots of things related to how Indigenous peoples understand life and community. Lots of differences about how different ethnic, cultural, religious groups view community. Again, I go back to the example. What does respect look like? What does it sound like? I often ask students who are upset with teachers or upset with me, if I'm being disrespectful to you, what does respect look like? And you will find that with different individuals. Some will ask you questions and some will not. And sometimes you need to ask a question once, and then at the next appointment, ask the question again, and eventually they come up with it. Okay, so there's a lot to handle and a lot to juggle. The other thing to keep in mind is, who are you? I know my own foibles. I really don't like when people are unfair or unjust or believe that they're entitled to things. So I gotta calm down, Matt. I've gotta calm down. Okay, strategies to honor individuality. There's all kinds of things. Some of them had talked about before. Inclusive language. I go by Matt. That's not my name. In my family, hundreds of years, every male, first name is William. 300 years. Come on, guys, get a grip. My son's first name is Alexander. Okay, broke the pattern. What is the preferred name that you like? How should I pronounce that? What should I say? Again, you're starting with inquiry. Ask how they identify. Helping people to identify that. What's the most important? What are the things that you think of? How do you identify yourself? Taking a look at the intersectionality. Again, what should I know? Anything that I should know. What's really important to you in your life? Where are you now? Where would you like to be? How could I help support that? I can't promise everything. You can't promise everything. And we're not looking to fix people. We're looking to support people as they go forward. There's no one size fits all. Okay, amplified the disabled voices, asking people what they think. For years and years and years, as a school principal, I had a principal's council. It was not the students on the honor roll. It's people who wanted to sit and eat with me once a month. And the kids who were out there smoking on the hill, I went and got them. Because I need to know, and you need to be able to hear the kinds of things that are there. It's not personal and you're not being attacked. If you are able-bodied and a person with a disability and uses the English pronoun you, please remember in English, we do not have good pronouns. We don't. You means Evan, or it means you, or it means the generic you. So again, asking for those voices, and it's not personal. Unless someone actually says to you, this is what you are doing to me. Why do you put a chair in front of me and then invite me into a room? Like, come on, like, don't do that. Okay, self-reflection, taking a look at who you are and going through and doing that all the time. All right, independence. Now, when Danielle talked about this was fantastic. Being independent doesn't mean I'm self-autonomous, but it also means freedom and choice, but fundamentally, independence means dignity, that you are seen as a human being. Seen as a human being, and please see people as human beings. One of my shortcomings is that if I dislike someone's behavior, I don't have a face that hides it. But I do talk about the behavior that I dislike, rather than the person. I know so few people well enough to dislike them, right? So it's the same kind of thing. Independence, okay. In Alberta, we have about 906,000 people who have identified as having one or more disabilities. 906,000 people. That's a lot of people. 56 to 80% from this study that you can take a look at of the accommodations and the accessibility aspects don't cost very much. They're simple and they can be done. Bill 206 that was defeated under the present government, I put a link into it. I encourage you to look at it because there's a lot of great stuff. And you may be able to go, hey, I could do that. We could do that. Just because it's not law doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And just because it's a law doesn't mean you should do it, okay? If you're me, okay? 2019, so we have some federal legislation, and as a part of Canada, we are under that federal legislation, and we need to continue to be that. So these are things that happen. The quote at the bottom is about John G. Diefenbaker, who said, I'm a Canadian. I'm free to do these kinds of things, okay? So I'll go back to the thing I started. As an individual, 1981, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. In my family, that was common. Adult onset type 1 diabetes. How does that work? In 2007, I started having difficulty when I was running. I loved to run. I love to run distance and just think and just be with myself and put on the headphones and not play any music. So I can tell you, I'm really old. Have the Discman on here, right? Okay, and then my little tiny iPod that was there. Started having some numbness in my feet. My toes were curling, making it hard to put my shoes on. I had to straighten them out, had to do weird stuff. Occasionally my hands got numb. 2008, diagnosis with neuropathy, all of that lovely testing of the conduction of electricity. And I spilled every secret I've ever had by being shocked with that because it's not fun. Between 2008 and 2017, not much changed, but I did start to feel some muscle weakness. And so when that happens, then I had to start to do some different kinds of things. I used to love to walk with Stephanie and the dogs. As we went from 3 dogs to 2 dogs to 1 dog as they got older, and this old dog got really slow. And the partnerships we had with Finnish high schools, and when I took students over there, and we would walk through Helsinki, which is great, and we go to the bar restaurant where Lenin wrote his manifesto, and I couldn't do it anymore because my muscles were exhausted. Now, I was used to being just under 6 feet tall and a lean guy who ran and never being intimidated by anybody who got outrageous at a high school basketball game, whether it was a parent or students or friends, and throwing them out and being a throwback cis white guy with a mustache who looks like a cop. Well, so now I'm not doing that. And then when COVID came and the schools emptied out and students weren't around there, I couldn't do that fantastic thing, could I, Isaac? I couldn't walk around the school and just go sit in classes. It was awkward, and it's really difficult if you use forearm crutches and you're slow. And I started to notice that it took me 3 to 5 to 7 times as long to do things. And because I keep track of stuff, because my doctorate's in gender performance differences on standardized testing, and standardized testing and those metrics are important to me, and where am I now in the population distribution, and how come I can't do what I used to do? My independence changed. My identity changed. Let alone the fact that I was getting older. Geez. But now I'm different. What does independence mean for me now? Well, independence for me now means that I take the hospital category B wheelchair that I happen to have, and I pick up a bale of peat, and I pull it across to the garden beds, and I rip that peat open, and I'm exhausted, but I did it. Whereas before, that would have been 10 minutes of work, and now it's an hour. So the metrics change. So again, asking the question, what do you want to do? What's the gap? How can I help support you? And maybe how I help support you is to have you talk to Dr. Minoka or someone else. So here are some examples of independence considerations that we take a look at. So they're always really important. But again, knowing what it means. Just because I want independence and freedom, I'm asked very often by Stephanie in a loving way, do you need a hand? I was asked today when I went through the lunch, can I give you a hand? I was asked twice, and I was asked in such a kind way and such a realistic way, which was the same as if somebody were balancing a laptop and a book bag and they're trying to pour themselves a cup of coffee. Can I help you with that? That's fantastic. And I appreciate that. I also told the story about waiting for some blood work, and it's very crowded in the room. And somebody came up behind me, flipped up my handles, he pushed me away and whispered in my ear and said, I'm just gonna park you over here, sweetheart. So as he turned around, I held on to his pants by his belt, and I said, I hope you can see where my shoulder is. So when I throw a punch, it's right in your crotch. And you're gonna come down and I'm gonna headbutt you. And then when you're on the ground, I'm gonna pick my front wheels up and I'm gonna bounce over top of you. So if you ever touch me or another person in a wheelchair. Now, I know that that was not the first time he interacted with someone in a wheelchair because that's what he wants to do. So, was I right or wrong? Yes, yes. Do I do that all the time? No. Sometimes people push me out of the way. Okay, I look for the context in doing that. But the independence that I have that's really, really important to me is I have choice. That's important for me. But it doesn't mean I do everything by myself. And sometimes my choice is to say, I need some help. Can you give me a hand? Can you throw this in the garbage for me, please? Because it makes it easier for me. And so to invite that in again by the inquiry. How can I help? Oh, if I can ever help you in the future, let me know. Just tell me what I can do. Happy to do it. Okay? I've done the same thing. Been in a mall. A parent is trying to juggle a bunch of things. I have said, you know what? I have a lap. You can put some stuff on my lap, including the child. I've had children, raised, done lots of things. Can I help you? Yes, here you go. Great. There we are. So the same kind of thing, being able to be seen in that holistic, intersectional way as not the person in a chair, but someone else. Okay, strategies to looking at this. Offering accommodation, fantastic thing to do, okay? Universal design for living. Anybody here been outside in a Chinook wind and try and open a door or close a door? Wouldn't it be nice to have an actuator? You ever walked with a dog and tried to get in and out of, do you want to be on Fail Army where you get seen the dog pulls you down the stairs while you're trying to close it? A lot of the things that we can do work not only for people with disabilities, but they work for all kinds of us. Here are some examples of things that we take advantage of now. I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of TV now with closed captioning. Sometimes the shows, I'm not able to understand them. Because of the way in which they are recorded, the noise is different. So the background noise is very loud, but the dialogue is quieter. Okay. Text to type, speech to text, unbelievable things. And they're available for all of us. If you've seen OXO's universal kitchen tools, they're amazing. They're amazing for anybody. You know, how you can open things or do things or access them. They're really, really important. Okay, so those are there for you in the slides so that you can see them. Okay, so really the work starts now in taking a look at these kinds of things that we can do. Okay, and let's talk about just one other thing. Maya Angelou talked about this. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I can't be reduced by it. Whether you get older, whether you're in a different context, you can be changed by that. And I I would love to tell you that there are no days when I'm angry and frustrated over this. I have a really good string of English swear words, and I have 2 really good Gallic expressions that summarize things. But it's not perfect. But nobody else's life is like that either. Nobody else's life is perfect where you go through it. So I want to talk about one of the last thing, which is the innovation. Do you know those hanging baskets that are available right now with flowers in them, like 10, 11, and 12 inch? Okay, you know the hanger that's with it, and sometimes you take it down, you don't want to hang it, and you pull it off? That is a fantastic door pull. They're cheap, and you can reach them. If you're a caregiver or if you're helping people, you can do it. And you know what? They're everywhere. They're ubiquitous. I've got them all over the place. I have on a horse blanket that my wife made for me, and she took an old apron, and I have 3 pockets. And I can do that all the time. I use a cutting board on my lap that fits right in here, and I put a silicone tray on it, and I can go up and down a ramp with a cup of coffee or a beverage, right? And I can do that. So to be innovative, like what do I want to be able to do, and what do I have around me that helps? And also in the way in which you are doing things. And you can reverse engineer things. If you have clients or patients who are in chairs, or who have visual challenges, or who have mobility challenges, try to replicate what they do and see what it's like for you. Or ask them if they are comfortable telling you and going through and doing that. Ask them and see what you can do. Can we innovate? There are a lot of ways to deal with things that don't involve huge amounts of money. One of the things that I have that cost me about $35 or $36, if you've ever been in a retail store and you've seen the clothes that are hung up way up high, and they take this little tool and they pick it up and they bring it down to you and they hand it to you. I've got one of those, and I can pick up a hose while I'm on the drive-on mower, which I get onto and cut 3 acres of grass. I don't do the culverts because I'll roll over. And I've promised Dr. Minoka I won't get behind the wheel of a car, and I don't. But I am honest. I take the lawnmower, I put the blades up, and I drive down the tertiary road, and I go to the community mailbox, and I pick up the mail. And then I drive back. And sometimes the dogs in the neighborhood chase me down there, and sometimes they don't. And the little kids on the ATVs, they come by, and they ask me to pick up stuff, and I pick it up with my clothes, right? So to be innovative and to see what you can do based upon what I can do, based upon what your patients can do, based upon what they want to do. How can we help to get there? And as Danielle talked about, and as Benita talked about, okay, technology is not going to solve everything, but there are some things that we can do with that. And really it's about the openness in taking a look at what it is that we need to do. Have I hit any of these yet? Have I gone past? You're not going to have it come up? Okay, so if we take a look at all these things, okay, and so this is my experience. The very last thing that I will say to you is people treat me differently now that I'm in a wheelchair. Some people are really, really kind to me and really, really open. And some people openly ignore me. Now, as a high school principal for 21 years, I can tell you when somebody's trying to ignore me. And so it happens. I prefer that people are open and kind. I'm not asking anybody to fix me, solve my problems. Can you support me in what I'm trying to do? Great. Do you see me as a whole person, even though you can't see all of me? Fantastic. And it makes a huge difference. And the very last point I will make on that, as a high school principal, I heard all the time about how fantastic certain individuals were as teachers, support staff, other students, and I would always say to them, have you told them? And they tell me no. Go and tell the people who make a difference. Seek out the voices of people who support those with disabilities, and with caregivers. And when they help you, tell them. Tell them what they did. Tell them how it made a difference. Tell them why you appreciate them. That makes all the difference in the recognition of people. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christison. We probably only have time for a few questions.
Okay.
So there's quite a few interesting ones. I guess if you had to choose 3 of the most important things to you while you were working in terms of accessibility or ableism, what would those be?
Asking what creates a problem for you, no matter how big or how small, and then taking a look at it. And if it's something that's vast, that's very difficult to do, like funding, let's break it down and take a look at it. And take a look at, if you could change something, what would it be? And then and again, the question that I liked and was very successful for me, and maybe it's a me question, is what do I need to know? Like, what is helpful for me to know, to understand how you go through the world and how it is for you to be here at this particular school at this time. So applying that in your own practice and when you speak with patients or clients or the other practitioners that you work with.
And someone has shared that they're an immigrant to Canada with a disability. How can I get started in ensuring that my school and university will accommodate me?
Okay. So depending again upon who you are as a person and how you like to approach other people, one of the things that I have found to be helpful is to take a look at what are the official documents that the university or the college says. What do we say we believe in? So if we believe in equity, inclusion, and diversity, can you please tell me how the university includes me when these are the things that I face? So how can we get closer from my reality to your mandate or your statement of these are the things that we believe in and this is what we are founded upon? It's not easy in the sense that it doesn't automatically turn it over, but again, just as Bonita was talking about ABCD, so you need to start with awareness. There is an assumption that everybody's doing okay until it's brought up that, no, I'm not doing okay, it's not working for me. And we need to know that. And if it's not that person, then there are other people. And look for the advocates who are there, because there are people, and you've seen a lot of advocates, and I would say that it's a room full of people who want to advocate and support. And to borrow language from LBGT, et cetera, and I just mean that for the clarity of time, who is an ally? Like, allies support and help you to understand and do that without taking away from your independence and your identity.
The last question we have time for is, a few people have said they're curious about your start without unnecessary documentation, which was on the slide about accessible solutions for Canadians. Can you talk a bit more about what that means?
Sure. What can we do right now that doesn't cost us money and doesn't need documentations? And as other speakers have talked about, you have to prove all the time, prove. You have to fill out forms and do all kinds of things. The documentation that's necessary to have tax credits is ridiculous, but it's worth it in the sense. But as a principal, what I would do is start something, and then we would make sure that the documentation was done. But to start, how can we start and where can we start with doing something? So very quick example, student with mobility challenges, being in a high school, class changes. If you've been in high school, public, what is going on? Where did everybody come from? So talk to the teachers, ask the student what would be helpful for you. Let me go early. Yeah, fine. You go early. You get to class early, and there's fewer people in the halls. Guess what happened? Documentation comes in, the psychoeducational evaluation says it would be helpful if she was able to move down the hallways earlier. Okay, we knew it was coming. And so we started with it. It's not about, okay, let's burn the system down, because that's not going to work. But it's the things that you know, start there. Start with some other things. What else can we do? What can we do in the meantime? What can we do? Looking towards doing that. Documentation always takes time. Paperwork matters. Otherwise, you don't get the funding. Okay?
Thank you, sir, for such
Okay.
a practical talk.
Thanks.